call it information session, training, whatever you want to call it. Let's call it an update session that we have today. It's nice to see that so many of you took the time to join us, even though it's a very busy time of the year for all of us. So thank you for taking the time. And the one who will present to us today is Peter, whom probably most of you already know. Yeah, there he is. And yeah, it is mainly about to provide you with news and updates that came up recently. And this is a follow-up on some things that we also heard at the channel partner meeting or at the distributor meeting we had earlier this year, that you would like to be informed a bit more regularly, a bit more often. So this is one step that we do to provide you with additional information throughout the year. Yeah, Peter is going to share some information. If you have questions today, don't hold back to ask them. You might write them in the chat. You might also, once Peter is done, we will have a few minutes where you can just ask the questions. So with that, I will hand over to Peter. And yeah, thank you, Peter, for taking the time to provide some new information today.
Yep. So I will share my screen here in a moment. Okay, I will switch off now the camera to have a little bit more bandwidth here. And I think most of you know me. The ones who don't know me, my name is Peter. I'm Product Lifecycle Manager at Hydromet. I'm responsible for existing products. That means all the products which we have in our portfolio, which we actively sell. I take care of the complete life cycle of these products. And as Katja mentioned, we didn't have a lot of opportunities lately to talk about what we have done. And even we have existing products, there are also, of course, modification changes to existing products. What I want to present or talk about today. And actually, I also go a little bit further back because there were, as mentioned lately, not many opportunities. There might be some things you know already since 1 or 2 years, but I thought it's a good idea to cover main changes, maybe also a little bit older, just that we have maybe a new starting point for the information status of everybody. Yeah, that's from me. As Katja mentioned, if there are questions, don't hesitate to ask. We are a group of now, I think, 22 people. If you have a question on your mind, you can ask it immediately, or you can hold it back until the end. If we don't have an answer now, we try to get an answer for you and provide it afterwards. But it's not necessary that you listen now 1 hour. I don't know how long it will actually will take. You can always. And it would be great if all of you mute your microphone if you don't have a question. Okay, so I'll go into presenters mode and then we will start. Okay, as mentioned, this is update and technical information for the partners. My name is Peter. Yeah, what I didn't mention, I'm responsible for hydro products. That means everything, groundwater, water level, data loggers, and so on. Products out of Kempten, but not Bluvio or Parsival or Adcon. That is handled by my colleague Holger Wille. And additionally to the products out of Kempten, the hydro products, the products from Sterling, from Sutron, as well as Hydrolab. So what do we want to cover today? I want to give a feature update for the Ecolog 1000 and also share with you some information about upcoming changes which are not realized yet, but will be realized. On the Sutron X-Link, also feature updates in the last 2 to 3 years. And we also had a recent change, I think just 2 or 3 weeks ago, which I want to present. The Ecolog and the Sutron X-Link are programmed and operated with Linkcom. Here we have also something in the pipeline for the future, which I will show only briefly as a heads up. Then we come to a product which we have now, I think 13 or 14 years in the portfolio, the OddNet DL, but even it's that long in the portfolio, there are still feature updates available, which I want to talk about. The PLS 500 was launched by my colleagues from Global Product Marketing, Greg Koch and Hannes Tietz, and I just want to give a refresh here. What does the PLS 500 offer? CBS, there is no change yet, but there is a plan to do something next year, which I want to cover. And I've decided to add 2 technology topics in general to talk a little bit what is MQTT and what does LTE-M mean. So those are topics which are coming up quite often lately, and I just want to use the opportunity to talk a little bit about these 2 technology topics. Okay, let's start with the Ecolog 1000 feature extension. What was added to the Ecolog 1000 lately? So first of all, we have now also the possibility to transmit with MQTT and MQTTS protocol. As mentioned, I will talk about this technology a little bit later at the end when we talk about technology, because this is somehow different to what we are used to with FTP or HTTP transmission. On the other hand, it's the same mechanisms, but I will talk about this. We have added an SMS type with readable values. As you might know from Ecolog 500, 800, you could send SMS data, but those were binary data. You always needed a Hydra 3 decoding software to decode the SMS, and you had some time series. With this SMS type, you can now define maybe once per day an SMS, which is sent to 2 numbers, 1 or 2 numbers with readable values. I can show you briefly how that looks like in Linkcom. When we see here the Linkcom for the Ecolog communication SMS, you would enter here a phone number, for example, my phone number. And then you can select here what do you want to get, and then you can select here text or binary. With binary, it would be the old method that you get to a modem binary message sent, which is decoded. If you select text, you get exactly this value measured at that time in a visible format. So this can be used to just get a status information from the site, gives you information, what is the water level distance to water at what time. And this is meant with readable SMS. We have extended the OddML header for the Ecolog 1000. The OddML header contains all the information, things like firmware, date, and so on. And it was now extended with the serial number of the Ecolog 1000 top unit, also the serial number of the connected sensor, and the cable length is now also part of the header. Then a change was made on the alarm on error that was not configurable. That meant every time when there was an error like error 5 or error 10 and not a threshold crossed, an alarm SMS was sent if an alarm was configured. And now this is configurable. You can select if you want to have an alarm only on crossing on thresholds or crossing thresholds plus an error. As the most of you know, we have added the conductivity version as variant to the Ecolog 1000, replacing the Ecolog 800. Basically, you have the same features as the Ecolog 1000 in terms of capabilities to transmit data, to program it, to do MQTT transmission as mentioned already. But there is now also possibility to have the Ecolog 1000 with a conductivity version, which is basically more or less an Ecolog 1000 with an DLSC. We have added FTPS support, secure FTP transmission. One note here, FTPS is supported. There's no support for SFTP. So it's basically only FTPS. And an active FTP transmission was added. I mentioned this here not because it's very important. I mention it here because there are mistakes happening here. Active FTP transmission is a way of FTP transmission which is absolutely not state of the art, which is used not very often. The normal FTP mode is always passive, but you can select in Linkcom FTP, active FTP transmission. And this is really used only by a few people because it's a special mode. But the misunderstanding here is that we had cases where people thought, let's select it here, FTP, active FTP. You need to check this to activate FTP, and this is definitely not the case. If you check this here, you are on active FTP, and your standard passive FTP won't work anymore. That's the reason why we have now, in the latest version of Linkcom, added this here. That was not there before, so that makes it clear that active FTP is only to be used if you really want to do active FTP. Most of you will not get into this situation. Okay, so those were feature extensions on the Ecolog 1000. You see there is a lot going on, and there are still things going on the Ecolog 1000. The Ecolog 1000 is always continue to develop further on features. But now we are in a state where I think we have a quite complete feature set, and then there might be new features coming out, but maybe on a longer cadence and not as often as we did that in the first 3-4 years of the launch, as the Ecolog 1000 is now already in the market, I think since 4 years, something like this. So those were feature extensions in terms of firmware and so on. Now let's talk about upcoming changes. There will be a change on the housing of the Ecolog 1000, especially, or on the housing means on the communication unit on top. There will be a new housing available. It's a dedicated housing for Ecolog 1000. The housing we had so far was a shared housing together with Ecolog 500, 800, which both are meanwhile phased out. When we used that with Ecolog 1000, that was a kind of compromise because we had to use features of this housing we do not need for the Ecolog 1000s, especially on top of the housing. There were room for the infrared interface. The infrared interface was sitting here. All things we do not use at the Ecolog 1000, and therefore we have now changed the design, which is dedicated for Ecolog 1000. All the space and the room which was on top used for the infrared is now gone. We have here a different locking mechanism, which is an improvement for production. We have a new material. The new material behaves different in applications with high humidity, especially on underfloor. We saw issues with this housing concept in underfloor applications where the material was not the most ideal material for this application. So this was changed. This change will come into effective or becomes effective as planned today, beginning of October. So basically in 2 or 3 weeks, then we will change the design of the Ecolog 1000 to this housing. This will not have any impact on ordering numbers or on data sheets and so on. But it will be a different housing design. But the order, how you order it, the part numbers, pricing, and everything else remains the same. So this is coming quite soon. Another change will be made later this year or next year. That depends on some other factors. That we have currently a sensor on the Ecolog 1000, which is not the same as for the Ecolog 500 or CTT 800. It's also not the same as the PLS 500. It's an own sensor just for Ecolog 1000, and we will replace this. We will replace this with a new sensor which is based on the PLS 500. What will this mean? The 0 to 4 meter range will be replaced by the 0 to 10 meter range at the same accuracy. Same story as with PLS 500. So we will have only, or we have one measuring range less than we had in the beginning. And the advantage here is that we just have more similar products in operations, and we can use the same production cells we use for the PLS 500 in future also for the Ecolog 1000. So we want to consolidate here the production portfolio. So this is coming end of the year or next year, the new housing in a couple of weeks. When this will happen, we will send out an information again to sales and to the team with some more details.
Yeah, maybe a few words to add here, because we will have not the full choice of different measurement ranges anymore. So we need to make our customers aware. So if I think of tender specifications, but on the other side, there are some additional features that we can also use and try to bring it into the tender specifications. Because the PLS 500 delivers some additional information like humidity sensors, integrated ones and things like that. And it also has got a much better temperature accuracy that we can use for the tender specifications. And that should bring us also, if we are able to influence the specifications, in a much better position.
Yeah, thank you, Tobias, for mentioning that, especially the temperature range. The better temperature range already resulted in that we won a larger tender just because of that improved feature. So yeah, that was a good point, Tobias. Thank you. Okay, Ecolog 1000. Let's move on to the X-Link. The latest news, which is not communicated yet because that just happened recently, is that we have extended the measurement channels from 32 to 48. So this is brand new information. So far with the X-Link, you had the possibility to measure maximum 32 in Kempten we say channels. In the X-Link we talk about measurements. So this is extended to 48 now. That gives you more possibilities to measure in Lincom. That would look like this. Let's change to an X-Link 500. Work offline. You see here we have now here 48 up to 48 measurement channels which can be used. We have added OTML. You might have seen that already, but that is also another step to consolidate also protocols on logger level. So OTML is now also part of the X-Link, and the X-Link can also remotely managed via Hydra 3net like Ecolog 1000 and like the NetDL. So that makes the Sutron X-Link a product which fits in between the Ecolog 1000 and the NetDL 1500 family with the same features. We have added here also secure data transmission, HTTPS and FTPS. And there is now also a possibility, but currently not available in Europe, but will be very soon, adding an RS485 camera. That means there is a camera available which can be connected here to the RS485 port, and this camera is more or less managed via script. Therefore, we can use the X-Link 500 only for that. Currently, we are working on the DOC, that means Declaration of Conformity for the camera and the X-Link solution. The tests are all done. Now we only need to create the paperwork, and this is expected to be also done this or next week. And then we have also an offering for the Sutron X-Link together with a camera. Important, the camera needs to be a very specific brand of camera which works with the script and therefore needs to be sourced at Ott Hydromet. But we will have the camera also in the portfolio, and that gives you a possibility to attach the camera. Important camera like on NetDL, you take a snapshot. And the main application would be you have a flood warning situation, your level rises above defined threshold. When this happens, the X-Link initiates that the camera takes a picture and sends it to a server, something like this. And also pictures can be stored in the X-Link in an SD card and can be read out later or copied down, or they can be transmitted via the internal modem. You cannot transmit the camera images via Iridium, only cell mobile communication, no Iridium. Therefore, the bandwidth is not enough. Okay, we have now here also modem for LTE-M IoT standard. That's something, as I mentioned, I will talk about at the end. It's supported. And also we currently are qualifying a new modem, 4G modem. The existing modem for Europe is end of life and will be replaced with a new modem, but this is actually also done already. The only thing which is pending for Europe is the declaration of conformity, which will happen together also with the camera. So this is the update on the Sutron X-Link, what was done lately. On Lincom, a short update here. Of course, the actual Lincom version 3.8.5 supports the presented firmware updates for the Ecolog and the X-Link. That means with the current version, you can configure 48 measurements in the X-Link. You can configure SMS on the Ecolog 1000. Everything what we have added on features is available in 3.8.5 on Lincom. Currently, there's also a new version of Lincom in development. It will be then start with 4.x. It's in development. It's a new design. It looks a little bit different. The approach here was to make the design more user-friendly. Therefore, we had some people working on the handling of the software. So the main purpose of this software is improved handling. Yeah. When this will come out, I cannot say yet. I don't expect to have it within 2024, but very likely latest in 2025, in the beginning, January, February, and also latest with the launch of a new product, which Hannes presented at the dealers meeting, the SensorLink. Together with the RLS 500, the SensorLink will be also configured with this program, and this will then have mandatory the version 4.0, and then we will not have two Lincom versions. We will then switch completely over to this new version to configure Ecolog 1000, X-Link, SensorLink, and other legacy Sutron products. That was the Lincom update. Ott NetDL 500 1000. As mentioned, we have this product in the portfolio since I think 14 years it was, or 13 years. It was launched 2011 in January, I believe. So for a product like this, it has aged quite significant, but aged also in a good way, that a lot of features were implemented over the last 10 to 13 years. The NetDL, which was launched in 2011, from a feature set has nothing in common with the NetDL we have today. There were very small feature updates, but also larger feature updates like we did a couple of years ago, a complete new database, which changed the complete handling of the data in the data logger. So a lot of things were changed here. And we still change things, but of course on a much slower cadence now, because we do things when we think it makes sense, but we do not do any change now requested. It really have to make sense also from a business case perspective. And as mentioned, there are already a lot of features in the NetDL. So what was done lately? One thing, I only selected 5 or 6 examples, because there were also some smaller bug fixes in there. But what were the latest things we did? Possibility to shift timestamp for values. So that's a time correction of the Bluvio timestamp in NetDL. That was a request from larger services that the Bluvio takes 5 minutes to take a measurement in a certain configuration, and there was a need to adjust then the timestamp in the NetDL. This is now possible. This is in service mode. It's not in the officially available mode for everybody. The reason for this is we don't want that somebody messes up with the timestamps. But if you need that, go to service mode. And if you need support, HydroService can tell you everything about that. We have added a check for password over USB. Background here is we have passwords for the data logger for data transmission, but we didn't have a password if you want to download data or configurations from the NetDL to a USB stick, which is plugged in here. And this was a security feature request from larger customers, so you can now configure it also that if somebody plugs in a USB stick and wants to download data, that he has to provide a password. We are supporting now also external modems. Of course, we do this since a long time. We have internal modems 2G, 3G, but 2G, 3G in many countries is going obsolete soon. In some countries, it's already obsolete. And the decision was not to update the NetDL with an internal modem, but with external modem, because that gives more flexibility. So we have now external 4G modem and also a external IoT modem for LTE-M. This is also the subject I will cover at the end of the presentation, what LTE-M means. So currently, external modems, we have 2 versions, a standard 4G modem as well as an LTE-M modem. Maybe one thing which is a little bit a niche thing, but some of you might know that we also can connect the HACH Solitax probe via Modbus to the NetDL. And actually, when you have a HACH Solitax, you can measure with the controller from HACH either turbidity or suspended solids. So you have to change the settings in the SC200. With NetDL, you can measure actually simultaneously both, or not simultaneously, one after each other, but in the same measurement cycle, which is quite a unique feature also for the HACH Solitax probe. Yeah, then mentioned also for Ecolog 1000, we have added MQTT, MQTTS, and the support of FTPS. And as I've mentioned also, other features were communicated over the last couple of years. I just picked some here to show them. Data log operating program, of course, has to follow up with the NetDL. You always need to support the features we build in the data logger, and of course the updated data log operating program supports the features. What is also not a new feature, but I'm not sure if everybody really knows about that. It's an improved diagnosis, and that's also something I want to show you. When we have here a configuration of a NetDL, you have here under tools the diagnosis, and this is very important for us. If there is a problem, we always ask you to read out the diagnosis at the moment when the problem occurs and provide that to HydroService, because that gives us a lot of possibilities to figure out what might went wrong. But the diagnosis file is a quite big file, and we decided to make it a little bit easier to read. If you go here, now you get a new window here. window gives you the device type of NetDL A444, the firmware version, which is actually on the device, which options are switched on. You know those license options like 120 channels, IP device, and so on. You see here immediately which one are active, the logger time, the battery voltage, the internal temperature, the MAC address, and the serial number. What errors are currently occurring. And what you have here is also some additional information. Slots means, okay, what modules? So A44 means we have 4 insulated output cards in there. And the module 1 is the display with a C3, that means with an internal modem type C. And it's a NetDL 1000 with an Ethernet port. Then you can go to modem status here. Modem, external modem. It's not registered because it's not active currently, but you would see here then the modem type, the provider name, the EMEI from the modem, the register status, and so on, GSM signal quality, and IP config, same here. Here it's the IP connection. 1 is the IP connection of the Ethernet port, and down here you would see the IP connection of the modem. Now you can also go to details. Then you have here connection, communication, web server, maintenance window. So you can select whatever you want and get just the messages regarding HTTP or FTP, or here just the events. There are seems no events currently here, but then you can also merge, for example, things like connection and communication. Then you merge logs, then you have here those two together, and then you can save that. What you also can do, full legacy, if you still are used to the way how it was before, it's still there. This is the full legacy diagnosis. And actually, when you don't do your own analysis, if you want to send it to Hydra Service, I would ask you to download here the full legacy diagnosis and send it in together with the configuration. That makes troubleshooting much easier. Yeah, so this is quite new, not brand new, but quite new as an improved diagnosis for the NetDL data logger operating program. PLS 500. This was launched a while ago, I think 1 year ago. You should have seen the launch package and all the information, so I don't think I tell you now something new, but I think it's worthwhile to mention it again, just to refresh that a little bit. The PLS 500 replaces the odd PLS. It has standard communication interface SDI12 and RS485. In RS485, you can do SDI12 or Modbus RTU. Having said this, the 4 to 20 milliamp interface is not available with the PLS 500, but we still have this available in the former design. That means the odd PLS is not completely phased out. The 4 to 20 milliamp version is still available, but sales-wise, I would say 90-95% is SDI12 or Modbus. What is also different to the PLS, we have internal computations on higher frequencies. So we have more possibilities to output statistics and averages. There are derived parameters possible. Discharge measurements can be done directly in the sound. You don't need mandatory data logger doing this. You have data verification, metadata flex. I come to this in a second. Internal position and humidity sensors. I will talk about this now. What does this really mean?
Sorry, Peter, just again, one comment because of the, that's also a question to you. The old PLS is available with 4 to 20 milliampere output, and we also have the version with the detachable cable. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, so that's maybe also something to mention here. So.
So, as mentioned, some details. Why do we call this a smart sensor? Data processing. We have We have 4 Hertz measurements that allows us, so a very rapid measurements to do statistics. It computes averages, minimum, maximum level, instantaneous values. So you can get better information because we have more data available, and you can do a lot of data processing already in the SOND, which eliminates manual data post-processing. The discharge calculation is possible in the SOND. You can calculate discharge from a defined rating table. One comment here, if you do that with a NetDL, for example, I would recommend to do it in the data logger and not in the SOND. It can be done in the SOND, but you have to set up this via STI12 commands, which is a little bit more cumbersome than just importing, for example, a rating table in a NetDL. You cannot do this the same here in the PLS 500. You have to type in those values, this table, via STI12 commands, but it is possible. Positioning sensor, I think this is a quite interesting feature. You install the PLS 500 in a certain way. It could be vertical. If you have installed it vertical like it's shown here, then you can store this position, and as soon as the PLS leaves this position more than, I think it's 5 degrees, you can set, if you want to, an alarm that the PLS 500 is not in position anymore. So this gives you an indication if there's something wrong on your measurement side, if maybe in a river debris hit the mounting fixture and the PLS 500 was moved. But it doesn't have to be in a vertical position. You can install it in any position you want to and save this as your default position. And then the same happens. If this default position is not given anymore, you can get an alarm here because there is a flag set in the pressure probe that the PLS 500 is not in the position anymore it was originally installed. Then we have also an integrated internal humidity sensor, which detects if there is getting humidity into the sensor. The idea here is if this increases, you might have an indication that there's something wrong with the SOND or with the cable, or that somehow humidity gets into the SOND, and this would give you the possibility to act before the SOND is stopping really working or getting out of order. So this is what we call predictive maintenance. So those are new features in the PLS 500, which you don't have in the PLS. And with the PLS 500, we have also some new accessories. There is a FAT6. The FAT6 replaces for the PLS the FAT5. Main reason here are it's simple handling of the FAT6, so the connection of the wires and everything, the desiccants is very easy. You don't need tools to do that, so it's very simple. And another topic is a quality topic. The FAT5 was more, I don't know the English term for it, was not as robust in outdoor environments as the FAT6. So there were some weak points at the FAT5 if you used it outdoor, and this is also fixed with the FAT6. Then we have a new USB STI12 adapter. You might know that we had this product since a long time, but this is also now a new one, was designed during the PLS 500 design. There are some new features in there. In the software, all the templates for our sensors are there, and the biggest improvement or advanced feature compared to the old adapters that it's powered by a USB. So that means you connect it to your laptop, and then you can connect here your PLS 500, RLS, or whatever. You don't need to power the sensor separately. It's powered by the device via USB. So that makes it easier to have a quick run on a sensor, connect it to your laptop, and easily check, okay, what is serial number, do firmware updates, and so on. So this is also a new device launched together with the PLS 500, but of course can be used with all Ott Hydromet STI-12 products. Okay, these were the accessories for the PLS 500. Ott CBS refresh. The CBS is, I don't know how long the CBS is in our portfolio. The CBS was already in the portfolio when I joined Ott, which is 14 years ago. So the launch date was, to my knowledge, 2006. So that means we are approaching soon the 20 years. And of course, there were always some minor changes done on the CBS, but we will do another refresh, which has started already, and the launch is planned for next year. The CBS will get a complete new electronic, which will then also allow more metadata to be used. It will get a new pressure sensor. What will remain is the current pump we use, because with this pump we have no issues at all. It's a very high quality pump, but besides that, the electronic inside will be completely new with the CBS. So that doesn't change really the device, what it does. It adds metadata for the future, but it will be still the existing CBS, reliable as known. But as we do here a larger change in the internal electronics, we decided also to rename it to CBS 500, so it will fit then to the PLS 500 naming, the RLS 500 naming. And another point why we are doing this is that the electronic used in the CBS 500 is very similar to the electronic in the RLS 500 and the PLS 500. So it's just consequent here also to update the product name. What will not support it anymore with the new CBS is the 4 to 20 milliamp interface. We did the research here that is not very often used and is an interface which we decided then not to support for economical reasons, as it's really only rarely used. But this will come next year. Okay, those were the product updates. At the end, I have now two technology informations, as I mentioned already in the beginning, talking about LTE-M, what it is and what it means, as well as MQTT. Only very briefly, this is not intended to be an MQTT training here, just to call out some differences to other protocols. But before we start with this, is there a question from the group to the product updates I provided so far? Nevertheless, you can also, of course, ask it at the end, or if something comes up later today, send an email, then we will also be able to address this.
Again, then one comment from my side, because we also have participants, especially from Norway here, and here we recently had the questions regarding replacement of the old Sutron data logger generation 9210, if it's still available. And the comment here is that we only have a very limited number of this old generation data logger available, and in the first place you should always seek for alternatives. Always check first if one of the other data loggers, NetDL or Sutron X-Link, might fit to the specific application, and this would be then this would be our preferred choice. And if not, we need to discuss internally, and we always, so that's our internal process, need to seek approval. So because we have, we keep an eye on the available units of the 9210s and select their final destination carefully.
Yeah, thank you, Tobias, for clarification here. That is actually the process. And we will keep up this process until there is a replacement for the 9210 available. Okay, technology information. I mentioned now, I think 3 times in the presentation, the term LTE-M. LTE-M, I mentioned it with Ecolog 1000, I mentioned it with Sutron X-Link, and I mentioned it also with NetDL. LTE-M is a mobile communication standard. It's based on 4G LTE standard, but it's not 4G as we know it. We have 4G Cat 1 or Cat 4 or Cat whatever, which is the normal 4G standard you use also with your smartphone when you do phone calls, when you're browsing the internet. You might have meanwhile already 5G. So LTE-M is not 4G standard 4G or standard 5G. It belongs to a low power wide area network standard, and it's used for somehow it's used in the range of IoT devices. It's used when you need a higher network coverage at very relatively low energy consumptions. That means also improved for battery operated programs, products, or solar operated products. So LTE-M is also supported from the same companies or organizations which are responsible for 4G and 5G. That means it's standardized in 3GPP, where all these companies are together and working on those standards for 4G, 5G, NB-IoT, and LTE-M is another flavor here. So very important to know, this is nothing proprietary. This is something driven by the large communication companies. So as mentioned, LTE-M stands for long-term evolution for machines. You see here is already the term machine in there. It's an M2M standard. It's developed for IoT solution, and it's developed where NB-IoT cannot provide the required mobility, which is not our problem, or speed for transmission. NB-IoT is also an IoT standard, also supported by the same providers, but it's really made for low bandwidth, low power devices like water meter, gas meters, where you transmit a very low amount of data. When we have compared to these applications, a groundwater data logger or a level station with a NetDL or an X-Link, you don't need the bandwidth of a 5G or 4G network you have on your smartphone, but you might need more than an NB-IoT can provide. And those applications are not only in our industry, those are everywhere in the industry where you have a little bit more data volume requirements. And therefore LTE-M was developed. It bridges more or less the very low demanding applications to the high demanding applications in terms of availability, bandwidth, and also an optimized power consumption. Maybe one thing, when you hear the term Cat-M1, this is also something you hear from time to time. Cat-M1 is exactly the same as LTE-M. In Europe, we use more the term LTE-M. Cat-M1 is the term used in the US, but it is the same. And what is very important, LTE-M is also very often called 4G LTE-M. And then the question is, okay, and what happens when we go now to 5G? That doesn't change the picture at all, because LTE-M, 4G LTE-M is also will be the standard in 5G networks. That is what is communicated by this 3GPP group. You have your 4G, 5G, enhanced mobile broadband critical communication, and the LTE-M as well as the NB-IoT is in this area here and will be supported in both technologies. So even if the industry goes to 4G to 5G, the 4G LTE-M will be also the standard in future for those machine-to-machine communications. What are the advantages of this technology? It's based on 4G LTE. That means it has the full functionality which is known from 3G and 4G. when you do today data transmission with an Ecolog 500 on 3G or with an Ecolog 1000 on 4G, the LTE-M does exactly the same. You configure it the same. You have the same communication methods. You won't even see that this is LTE-M. For you, it's just another 4G or in general mobile communication possibility, which is different. I mentioned that already earlier, this NB-IoT, which is used for the smaller devices. Here you have a different scenario. Here you would have different setups, limitations on servers and so on. With LTE-M, this is all the same. You can also send to multiple servers like you do it with 4G. You can do firmware and configuration updates. You can use Hydra 3Net to manage your network, FTP transmission, everything exactly the same thing. For example, if you would do a firmware update with NB-IoT on an Ecolog 1000, that would not be possible because the bandwidth is just not there. We also do not have limitations in time series transmissions. We have a very fast response to alarms, but we still have a lower power consumption than in standard 4G or 5G. So it's made for solar or battery powered systems. We have a good network coverage in difficult environments. That means normally the coverage is better than 4G, 5G. This is related to the frequencies used. The LTE-M uses the lower frequencies. They are in the range of 800 megahertz, and those frequencies are better in getting longer distances, getting maybe through obstacles, maybe even in a building. They are better suitable than standard 4G, 5G. So ideal also in remote areas. But of course, your network supplier needs to support this technology. We have a standard mobile encryption, state of the art. That means if you do a HTTPS transmission, that's the same in LTE-M compared to 4G or 5G. The data rate is currently up to 350 kilobits per second. Will be in future 1 megabit per second, which is more than enough for applications. We also run applications, for example, where a camera is connected to a NetDL, which is no problem to transmit the images also via LTE-M. A low latency here given. And I talked already, images possible. There are even systems out there where you could transmit voice over this technology, which is in our case actually not required. Yeah, what do we support at Ott Hydromet currently with LTE-M? As mentioned, we have the Ecolog 1000. Again, important to know is it's not. We have two variants: the Ecolog 1000 4G, which is the standard one, and the LTE-M. Those are two different variants. So it's not just a firmware switch where you switch between the two. It's a different hardware. It's a different modem. That means the communication unit of an Ecolog 1000 with LTE-M is different compared to the Ecolog 1000 standard 4G. NetDL 500 1000. Here we use external modems. Any NetDL you have already, even with internal modem, as long as you have a free RS-232 port available on the NetDL 500 or 1000, you can connect external LTE-M modem or other 4G modem, whatever you want, and it will work. For the X-Link, it's similar to the Ecolog 1000. The X-Link has a modem module integrated, which can be replaced. This is different to the Ecolog 1000, and there is also one version available which supports LTE-M. This is available. You can buy an X-Link completely new already with this modem type, or you can just buy the modem module and update your X-Link on your own to LTE-M. The coverage of LTE-M is increasing dramatically. As it was 2 years ago, almost not available in Germany. We have now almost 100% coverage where I have to say where we have coverage. You know, Germany is not the best blueprint for optimal coverage of mobile communication. I know in other countries, NB-IoT is more in favor and not so much used as LTM, but really if you want to use LTM, this needs a check in your region if LTM is available and is it a good alternative to the standard 4G technology. Good. Then that was what I wanted to talk about LTM. The next one is MQTT. Here I really will keep it a little bit shorter. MQTT is an IoT protocol. It stands for Message Queuing Telemetry Transport. It's a simple and lightweight messaging protocol, and it works different than other protocols we know. It's a subscribe and publish protocol. That means I'll show you here it on the image. If you have here, for example, an Ecolog. An Ecolog would then publish something to a broker. Publish could be the water level. That means this water level gets a tag and it's published to the broker. The broker is an MQTT broker that has nothing to do with software from us like Hydra 3 or Aquarius or whatever. Those are dedicated broker handling MQTT. Those brokers are normally cloud services. The most common ones are Microsoft Azure, AWS, Google Cloud. Mosquitto is also quite common because it's open source and free. And if the Ecolog publishes the data to the broker, then you have here devices like a mobile app, and this mobile app says, okay, I want to subscribe to this topic. That means every time when the Ecolog publish the water level, this mobile app has subscribed to this level, gets the level. And for example, if you would like to have now the data in a Hydra 3 net, Hydra 3 net would be maybe somewhere here as a subscriber. So Hydra 3 or any other software would subscribe to the broker and get the data. And the broker runs, as mentioned, on a cloud. And also one advantage is you can easily adjust here many subscriber. You don't have to change anything here. You only add other devices which subscribe to the topic, and then they get those information they have subscribed for. Of course, you can also subscribe to many other sensors, and that's the way how MQTT works. So that means currently MQTT, this here is something we as OTT are not involved at all. This is something the user sets up on his own. We provide then here an Ecolog or a NetDL, which has the possibility to publish MQTT, and the user also decides how he wants to subscribe to this topic via the broker. So we are currently working on this side here, but we have already some applications where customers have set up a broker and have an own software where they subscribe to this cloud solution. It's not very widely used currently, but we get more and more requests for that. But again, this is not an all-in-one solution from OTT here. This is a solution on this side from us, and this here is on the customer side. I can show you briefly on the Ecolog. We go to communications. We add an IP transmission. You would configure it very simply. Server type HTTP. We select here MQTT, and then you get here some other fields you need to fill out compared to HTTP. A server address that is similar like HTTP. You need a server address, the port, a username, a private key, then there's a client ID, a topic data. This is then the topic others would subscribe for. Topic command if command handling is done. So-called SAS resource. Don't ask me now about the complete detail what this is, but what I wanted to show here is it's just a different way how you need to configure that. And if you fill that out, you can select here also what you want to send. The most people use CSV for that, but actually the MQTT is also not depending of the data format. That is really just a question of the implementation then on the broker. And that's the way how MQTT is configured. I just wanted to show that to you because you have seen that maybe also in the operating program. And this is what MQTT does. It's currently supported. Oh yeah, here I have an example how this looks like for Ecolog 500, Ecolog 1000, the username, private key, client ID, and so on. Yeah, just have to fill that out. And as mentioned, MQTT is currently supported by Ecolog 1000 and NetDL. Xlink not yet, it's in the roadmap, but I have not yet a final date for that. So that wraps up my short technology session here, and I'm through with my presentation. I'm open for questions or maybe also for remarks what we might cover in the next session, which might be scheduled somewhen, that we say, okay, we look now at LTM and MQTT. What else can we look at? This is something which you can provide as feedback, maybe now or later to Katja and Tobias. Purpose of this is that we get closer contact again as we had it in the past with these sessions, as we had not enough time for this during the DELO meeting. Switch to...
So it seems there are not too many questions now. Please, if anyone has a question, make sure to unmute yourself before you speak, because otherwise we would not be aware of it.
There is something in the chat. Oh, it was already answered. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Tobias and Samuel already did a great job in answering that.
Dream team.
So that means I have to share my bonus here with them.
So then Patrick put something in the chat.
Can you share any timeline for flow sensors? Now there I do not have informations today available. Anything planned on HydroLab? Yes, on HydroLab we are working currently on a new series of sensors for chlorophyll measurement. Unfortunately, this was a little bit delayed. It was planned to have them ready already in September. Now there will be a delay of 1 or 2 months. I do not know exactly how long it will be, but in HydroLab we are also currently working on some new sensors. As soon as we have here more information, also technical data, we will inform you. It's mainly related to chlorophyll measurements, but definitely a step forward because it will be higher quality, better handling, less calibration. They are factory calibrated, so less calibration required. But this is currently ongoing. So also on the HydroLab side, there are still things going forward. But maybe we can add this to a next session that we address also things like flow and HydroLab in more detail. That might be something which I can prepare, and then we can share that also with the group.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, would be a great thing to already use that as input for a potential next session.
Yep.
Which also means now to all of our partners in here, if you have things you have questions on, don't hesitate to ask that to us. We can always need input for preparing meetings like this to make sure they answer the needs you have and they provide an actual benefit for you.
From my side, as mentioned, the idea would be that we do this on a kind of regular basis. It doesn't make sense to have this every week or every month. So we are now all heading towards the end of the year, but I think could be a possibility that we consider a similar meeting, maybe February, something like this. Maybe we have then already some other news on other products. If this is something the group would like to see, I think, Katja, we have definitely the possibility to do that.
Yes. So now we got
Yeah.
another question in the chatter.
Yeah, any plans for possibility to add external sensors to an Ecolog 1000? No, currently not. The Ecolog 1000 remains a pressure sensor. But I think when we have the next meeting, we can also talk about SensorLink, which was presented by Hannes at the dealer meeting with the RLS 500, which is basically an Ecolog in a different form factor. And maybe we have here some options we can discuss and address. And that's also the reason why I wanted to suggest February as a good next meeting, because we might then be also able to show a launched product with new features, a sensor and a data logger, yeah. That's to the question on the external sensor of Ecolog 1000.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. It was really nice to present, and I haven't done this in a long time. Somehow I become rusty here, but it's a pleasure to have so many participants here, and yeah, hopefully we meet again in a meeting like this or in a face-to-face meeting. It's always a pleasure to see you and have good conversations about everything.
Good, Peter. Thanks a lot for preparation, and the presentation was okay. It was good. And Katja,
thank you,
thanks
Tobias,
for
for this exciting statement.
Okay, and thanks everyone for listening.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.